everybody, good evening, happy Tuesday. I hope you're enjoying the totally random showers and rainy weather. It keeps you guessing, doesn't it? Keeps you on your toes. So today we're making woven rainbows like this one. I'm just going to wait for some people to arrive, share the link, so make yourself a cup of tea, get settled in. If you're rewatching it, skip this bit of the video. Oh, 2 people. Hello guys, just sharing the link. Just bear with me, please. Oh, 3. You ready to make your rainbows? Oh, hi Susan. I was wondering if I'd see you this evening. Okay, that's the link shared. Right, so a few more of you here. We're making these lovely woven rainbows today. So spoiler alert, they take longer than an hour. Hi! Oh, I love it when people say hello. Do give me a shout out in the comments. It's so nice to hear from you. No, I'm not just talking to myself. So yeah, these rainbows do take longer than an hour, but I'm going to show you everything you need to know to make one, and then you can just add on, spend a little bit of extra time. We're also going to cover making some clouds that you could hang with your rainbow in the last 15 minutes. So if you want to, you can just get on with your rainbow. The cloud, it's a very similar technique. It's going to look great. So I'm going to get started. First off, I just need to say, Susan, I know some of you have got craft kits from me. The people who've got craft kits more recently, I managed to source some thicker rope, so you'll only need one lot of thickness. I'll do both in the video so you can see. But Susan, I think you've got one of the older kits, and the rope's more like 5mm thick, so I would double that over. You can just use it one lot of thickness, but if you want to get a nice chunky rainbow, I would double that rope over. Susan, I'm talking to you. Everyone else has a thick rope, I think, so we will get started. First off, choose the colours of wool you want to use. Oh, actually, when I'm talking about this doubling it over, I should just say that that's actually a really good technique if you're working, because you can use a much thinner thread like this one. This is only a 4mm. You could double it over 4 times to make a thicker rope. Some people then put tape around that rope that they then cover with wool, but you can just wrap it in wool. You can also use just wool, use loads and loads and loads of strings of wool to create a thick rope to go in your middle. So yeah, don't worry, doubling it over is a great technique, really useful. So I'm just going to choose some colours. I'm thinking a non-traditional rainbow this evening. I feel like branching out, getting a bit creative. So I've got a nice pink here. I'm going to use some of this. And I think because of the amount of time I have, because I want to get on with making a cloud, I'm just going to make my rainbow in 3 colours. So it'll only be 3 bars. I remember last time I did this workshop, we had a big discussion over what you call them. Oh, you just answered it. That's good, Susan. So you watched the original video where I used the thinner cord, so I double it over. That's good to know. So yeah, I'm going to do a smaller rainbow. So you start off, you get a bit of rope that's going to be the size of your smaller rainbow band. If anyone's got any suggestions for what I might call the bows of the rainbow, I would like to hear it. So you get a bit of rope, and then you want to have some dangle on that to create our lovely little tassels. So I'm going to make my bow about that big. This is going to be the smallest one, and I'm going to cut my rope a little bit further down. It's not a very technical measurement. If you received a kit, then you got some pre-cut bits of wire, and you want to start with the smallest bit of wire, and your rope should be longer than that. You can also cut the wire to the right length, but I'm going to cut the wire so the wire sits, she's made one, the wire sits just inside the wrapping like that, so there's a bit of wrapping without wire in at each end. So the wire is not going to be the same length as your piece of string. It's just the same, it's just a bit shorter than the length of your bow. Hello! Oh, loads of people, yeah. Oh, I love it when you all come along. It's so nice to see you all. I mean, I don't get to see you. It's so nice to imagine you all there. So I've got a bit of wire that sits inside my bit of rope. So I'm going to start wrapping. So a little tip when you're wrapping the wool is it's quite good to double it over, because most wool is quite thin and you will sit there for ages wrapping it round. But if you double it up, this is a total mess. I'm just going to spend the whole workshop untangling this bit of wool. Oh no, I'm joking. Obviously I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change what wool I'm using. That's the mature option. Right, so if you take two ends of your bit of wool and double it over, then your wrapping is going to go loads quicker. Right, so I'm going to start off by just tying a really simple, tying that onto my rope. And that should go about where I want to start the colour band of my rainbow. Ah, cool, Nikki. Yeah, sometimes it is better to rewatch them, but it's lovely that you dropped in to say hi. And you do get more from rewatching them a couple of times, I think, so you can do what you want. So I'm holding my bit of wire next to my rope. I've got my double wool here, and then it's really easy. I'm just going to start to wrap that around the rope, and it also goes around the wire. And what I'm trying to do is cover up the rope entirely, so all I can see is my lovely blue wool. Don't worry if you make if you miss a bit, you can always wrap it twice, go back over the top, fill in any gaps. That can look quite nice. Now I just want to check that I've got sort of even amount of rope, so I don't know if you can see the wire, it's quite thin there, but you see the wires there, and I've got a bit of rope overhanging the end. That's all right, I don't mind if you're late. I'm the only one who has to be here on time. I almost wasn't this evening. I was made dinner really late, chopping onions, and the kitchen is full of onion fumes, so I'm really worried that I'm just going to cry into the camera. So if I start crying, it's the onion fumes, it's not the rainbow making me crazy. Just thought I'd let you know that. My kitchen's been fumigated with onions. So I'm just wrapping around the wire and the rope till I get to, well, I'm just looking at this and it actually looks like I haven't left quite the same amount on the end, so I'm just going to trim the wire a little bit. So you can do this if you've got some wire cutters, that's great. You can use an old rubbish pair of scissors or a pair of normal pliers, usually have wire cutters on. Either of those will work. Okay, so then to finish my wool off, I'm just going to put a loop, put it back through itself, and just tie a little knot. So that's fine. You don't have to tie a really good knot because we're going to use this end for sewing, so it's going to totally disappear into your rainbow and then creates a knot itself. So I'm just going to check the size of my little bow I've made here, make sure I'm happy with it. Make sure I'm happy with that for my inside of my rainbow, like size-wise. Make sure I'm happy with how that works. And I am. So now I'm going to cut my next bit of rope. So I've got my little blue bow. I'm going to lie it down, and I'm just going to bend my bit of rope around so that I know that this one will fit on the outside of that one. Can everyone see what I'm doing on the table there? I think you can. But if you have problems seeing, just shout. I'm never sure. My phone makes it look really dark, but when I watch the videos later, I think they look all right. So just let me know if you can't see it properly. Yeah, so make sure it's the right length to fit over that one and cut that. Now I'm going to make sure my wire is the right length. So it's going to sit just inside the wrapping, so a little bit shorter. Don't worry if it's quite a, well, you don't want it too much shorter. About 1 centimetre, that's the most shorter you would want it. Choose my next colour. What do we think? Pink next or green? Green and then pink, pink and then green. I'm going to go green and then pink, I think. Okay, so again, I'm going to use a double thickness of wool because that just makes my life easier. Just going to check where I want to start that wrapping by measuring it on the one I've already made. Just going to put a loop and put that wool through itself to start it off and secure it. I mean, you can just tie a normal knot here really, whatever works for you. It's just about securing it, trying to make it look tidy, and being able to get started. And with this technique you can quite easily hide a little knot or messy end at a later date. I'm just going to wrap that wool round a couple of times before I add in my wire. And a good way to add in the wire is just to poke it in to the wrapping you've already done. Oh, I've done a bad job of that. So you poke it into where you're wrapping already. Oh God, it's all coming apart. Oh, don't you love it when your craft project conspires to make you look silly? Yeah, probably just totally ignore what I just said. You can usually poke it in the wool you've already wrapped, and that holds it in place. That's great when that works. Like, it's just worked this time. Great. Okay, so now you start wrapping again, working your way down the piece of rope. Quite satisfying this. Getting some white rope, turning it into coloured rope. Very therapeutic. So this project is very enjoyable. There is some sewing involved. If you're not, that bit can be a little bit frustrating, but it doesn't last too long. So I think it's worth persevering to get the sewing done. And I will show you a cheat. So if you're not keen sewer, there's a way you can just do a little bit of sewing. You still have to do some sewing, just you can do less. But I will show you both ways so you can decide what you'd rather do. So next week, if anyone's around, we're doing batiking with PVA. So batiking is a technique for fabric painting where you use a resist and then you use a paint or a dye. It's really fun. Traditionally you would use wax, which is great, but you need to have quite a lot of kit to use wax. With batiking, and I'm going to post a little quick video that I made previously about how you can prepare for that workshop, because it's one of those where you've got to start it and then you've got to let the PVA dry thoroughly and then finish it. So it's quite it's quite good if you want to, you can do the first stage before the workshop and then we can just all paint it together and get the finished product. Or you can just do the PVA bit with me and then paint it another day. You've got to leave it like 24 hours for the PVA to dry, I think. The only problem with using PVA as a substitute for wax, because the wax is almost instantaneous, but the PVA takes a bit longer to dry. So I'm just tying this end off around my rope. Yeah, but it's really, you get great results with the PVA, and the batiking is a lot of fun. Something that's really important to do is make sure you use like a kid's PVA. It doesn't have to be PVA actually, it just has to be a washable craft glue. That's the important thing, that it's going to wash out of the fabric. So just find a glue that you've got lying around that you think would work, that is water soluble. Quite a thick glue as well, can't be too runny. I mean, not super thick like PVA. I'm blabbering. Right, so I'm going to cut my next bit of rope. So I've just measured it so the arch fits over this arch. I've got my 3 there. I'm not feeling the pink anymore. I think I'm going to swap it for another colour. So I'm just going to rummage in my big messy bag of wool. Talk amongst yourselves. Yeah, I'm going to go grey. I'm going to go tasteful. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I love doing batiking with wax, but I know it's not practical for everyone doing it at home. So I think doing it with the PVA is going to be cool. Well, it is cool. I've done it before, obviously. I'm saying that like I've never done it. But yes, it's a good project, very enjoyable. That's next week on the Tuesday evening. And I've also got a Saturday morning workshop on. That's on a different page. The Saturday morning workshop is in... Oh, we're going to be doing some painting and pen work. So that will be really nice. I'm looking forward to that. Just a bit of sort of therapeutic mark making and patterns and sort of matching up patterns with paint. I'm going to use some of the handmade paper I made at the last Saturday workshop to do my painting on, which I'm quite excited about. I think that'll look really, really nice, really professional. So I'm just going to wrap this bit of rope about maybe just under a centimetre. I'm just going to measure out my bit of wire. So it's a bit shorter than all that is wrapped. Oh, it's going quickly. Might make it to 4 bows on the rainbow. We'll see, we'll see. I don't want to get your hopes up. Oh, yep, I can definitely go through how you tie the wool on the end. Basically, it doesn't matter how you tie the wool through on the end. What I've done here though, is because I'm using a doubled over thickness, I've just got it all out already, doubled it over, and I've got the loop there, as you can see. I hold it against the white wall. And then I'm just putting the loop on one side and just threading all the wool through the loop, and then I can just pull that tight. That's a really nice tidy way to start it. You can also just tie it on with just like a regular little knot. Just make sure it's good and tight, and then you can hide it in your rainbow later. Pull that tight and just wrap it around about a centimetre. Bit less than a centimetre. Stick your bit of wire into that wrapping if you can without making a mess of it. Then we start wrapping over the wire and the rope. Okay. So again, you're trying to make sure you cover up all the rope so you can not see any rope or any wire. That's the plan. When you get You know what, I think I'm going to stick at 3 because sewing it together always takes longer than I want it to, and I'm really excited about showing you how to make these clouds, so I want to just get on with that, I think. I haven't decided what we're going to do after the batiking yet. I haven't got my my next workshop planned for the Tuesday after the batiking. Oh, the possibilities. Might do some more macrame. I think you've quite enjoyed the macrame. Maybe do a macrame wall hanging, which is something that I haven't actually tried before. So we'll all be learning together. What could possibly go wrong? I would like to do some macrame wall hanging. You can be a bit more creative with your macrame. Might have to do some new knots that you guys haven't done before, but I think you're up to the challenge. I've also been getting overexcited, and I know it's in advance, but I've been planning my Halloween workshops. So look out for them. I'm going to be doing some pumpkin carving. Might get a bit messy, but I do love to carve a pumpkin. It's because I'm half American. The love of Halloween is in my blood. Okay, let's see how long this is. I have not done a great job of wrapping these, guys. I think you'll do better than me. But it's okay, I'll show you a little trick as well for that you can just add some extra wrapping in as you go. So I'm just gonna have to keep going with this for a bit. My bit of wire on this one was a bit short, but I think I'll get away with it. Let's check this. Let's see. Yeah, I think that'll do. Don't worry if they don't all end at exactly the same place. We can mix it up, push it up and down. I know, right, Halloween, but you know, it's lockdown. I know we're not there yet, but imagine if I told you guys I was planning my Christmas workshops already, you'd be groaning at me. I'm not, I'm planning my Halloween workshops. You've got to do Halloween first, then Christmas. Okay, right, pushing that down, tightening that up. Making sure these are all the same sort of length, which they are. And then let's get on with the sewing. So you've got your long traily bits. You want to make sure that you've got a long traily bit at the bottom one is on that side. Then the next one, the middle one, is on that side. And then we've got the final one is on this side. You get your needle, which obviously you know exactly where that is. Here we go, here's the needle. You want ideally, this is like a thick wool needle, but it's got a sharp point as well. You don't need a sharp point, but I think the ones with a sharp point just work better. They certainly do for me anyway. So we've got doubled over wool, which should work fine, as long as you can thread it through your needle. Oh, Susie, yeah, are you excited for some Christmas crafts already? That's nice. Can't thread it through my needle, might have to cut it. Can we just wet it a little bit, see if that helps? Yes, come on. Yay! There we go. Didn't make a complete fool of myself on camera. Right, so sewing your rainbow together. The cheating way of sewing your rainbow together is where you just sew the ends together like that. So you end up with these little gaps between your different rainbows. It's much, much quicker and you get a slightly different aesthetic, but it works great. So to do that, you get the wool from the inner one, and you just sew through the middle one. That's it, Susie, that's the spirit. You've got to get ready. So you sew it through the middle one, and then you also sew it through the end one. And if you make sure on this end, this first end, all your wool wraps are lined up, and then I will show you how, when we get to the other end, we can push them up and down to make them fit. So I'll just show you what I've done here. Go for a close up. You see you've got all three sewn together like that. So you just pull that string tight. So the stitch on this side, you really don't want to see it. You want it to be covered up by this grey wool. So what I do is go back into almost exactly the same hole, because there's so many fibres, you won't be going back into the same hole, and we can always cover it with a bit of extra of the grey thread. But then take the needle in at like a diagonal angle. So you come up a bit further up the middle one. If you're struggling to get the needle through, I recommend a pair of pliers. Pliers are a great tool when you're sewing thick, difficult things. So do get some pliers, give yourself a hand. And this should work now. Yeah, so as you can see, I've got a little stitch on that grey side that you can't even see. As you can see, you can't see it. And my wool's come back through to this side. So that would probably do, just 2 stitches like that, if you were going to sew it together that way. So now I'm going to show you the other way to sew it together. Right, so first off, I'm using this blue thread. If on this blue strip of the rainbow there's any bits I can see where the rope hasn't been entirely covered up by the wool, like for example down here, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a gap here, I can just add in a couple of goes around my rainbow as I go, just sewing back up in between the green and the blue. You see I've totally covered up that gap there. So I'm going to start sewing them together now. So you want to keep them in that bow shape. It would be easier to sew them together straight, but we don't want to have a straight rainbow. We want to have a bowed rainbow. So the thing to do, it's going to be another close-up. My quads are getting a bit of an exercise for this workshop. Right. So you're going to go through a few threads on the green one, like that, and then your needle sticking out. Pull your needle out. And then you go through a few threads on the blue one. Like that. And then you just alternate between the green and the blue one. So it's only about maybe 4 mil or something worth of space in between your stitches. I'd also, if this is your first rainbow, I'd decide a front and a back, because your stitching may not be mega tidy on one side, but then you've got a perfect side and a less perfect side. Ideally, if we were making these professionally, if we'd made hundreds before, our stitching would look amazing on both sides, but I don't want you to put that kind of pressure on yourself. It's not necessary. You can just have a good side and a bad side. So I don't want anyone getting stressed out and throwing their rainbow across the room, please. There's really no need for that. And I know sewing can be a bit like Marmite. Some people love it. Some people think it's the work of the devil. Or what they used to call it, women's work. Obviously, we don't say that anymore. Right. So I'm just sewing these 2 bows together. a stitch at a time. So just picking up about 3 bits of wool, about 4 millimeters along on each side of the rainbow. And just if I go past any bits where there's a gap, where there's a bit of rope showing, I'll just put in and wrap that blue thread around the rainbow. You can pull on, if you pull that blue thread tight, then it will also help with your stitching being tidier. The stitching is really the bit that I have not, you know, I think it's the bit that's like quite hard to get to look tidy. I've definitely not got it to a perfection yet. It's something that gets a little bit better every time I make one of these rainbows, but it's still not quite there yet. But don't worry, I'm not. I'm going to have a front and a back, and the front's going to be gorgeous. I think these look great hung on a wall, so then it doesn't matter if there's front or back, does it? I haven't plugged my group yet this evening. I hope you're all members already, but I have got a group for these workshops, so please share a photo of your rainbow on the group. We love that. Sometimes we share them on this page as well, so I hope that's okay. But the group's called Get Creative, free online workshops. So join the group and share photos of anything really. If you've been creative recently, if you've got something you're proud of, something you'd like to show us, we'd love to see it. Everyone is really lovely, supportive of each other's work. It's a very positive space. It better be positive. No, I'm a very chilled out group admin, probably because it's quite a small group. But yeah, just find it on Facebook. It's called Get Creative, and it is a really lovely space where we can... I was talking to someone about it yesterday actually, and they were saying, oh, it's like you're trying to create a virtual studio. And I was like, that's exactly it. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create a space for people who want sort of contact with other creative people, because I rent a studio, and a big reason I rent a studio is because I love being part of a creative community. I find it so inspiring to see what other people get up to, and like have that kind of, you know, it's not just it's like a personal relationship with people. It's not just you know, people who I follow on Instagram. I like to be part of that creative scene. So that's kind of what I'm trying to create in the group, like an online studio, so we can all show each other work and give each other ideas and inspiration, and just sort of connect with other people on a creative level. That's my mission statement. Here you go, I'm just waffling on because I'm just sewing and it's boring, so I hope you don't mind. You can always mute me. I should really tell you that. I should be like, for this part of the video, if you don't want to hear me just chatting about anything random, hit the mute button, and then I can go off on my little tangents. Okay, so I'm coming to the end of this bow. So this is why I thought I'll only do 3 bows, because this sewing does take a bit of time if you do it the way where you sew it together all the way. So here we go. Here's an issue. This green one is a lot longer than this blue one, isn't it? That happens. What you can do, the easiest thing to do when that happens, is to just push your wool up, and you can usually just push. So I've just pushed it up my rope, and now they are, as you can see, the same length. If you couldn't push it up, you could obviously just undo a bit of the green, but pushing it up looks quite nice because it makes your wrap a bit tighter, and it also helps you get those to the same level. Okay. So I don't know what your plan is for your rainbow you're making, but I'm hopefully going to give this to my niece who is due any day now. So I'm really excited about that. I'm going to make her a little mobile with a cloud and the rainbow. I think it'll look lovely. And if her parents don't like it, they can always give it to a charity shop, I guess. Okay. So then just to finish it off, I'm just putting a stitch all the way through the blue one. Again, you might want pliers for this if you struggle to get it through. Pliers can be your friend. Just going to put it back through. That green one has slipped again, so it's not quite even. But you're not a robot, you're not a machine. I say cut yourself some slack and enjoy the imperfections in what you make. I think that is so important. I think when you are creative, you can get so caught up in making it perfect and wanting it to look like one that was made by a robot in a shop. You lose sight of the beauty of it being handmade and a little bit rustic, and you know no one is going to see those mistakes the way you see them. So just, you know, don't worry about it. That's my advice. Okay, so I've put a stitch all the way through the blue one and then back through, and then just to finish it off, what I'm going to do is just run the end of the blue up through the blue wrapping. So time for the pliers. When I say pliers, I haven't actually got any. I'm just saying you might want to use pliers for this. So you pull that blue wool up inside the blue wrapping and then just cut it off. Cut it really short. It's not, that will hold it nicely, so then you don't have to see it. Okay, next. So if I was going to add more colours onto this rainbow, I'd save this grey one here to sew them on. And I'd use this green one here to sew my next layer. But as I'm not going to add more colours onto it, it's just going to be these three. And my grey one's looking a bit patchy and the green one looks quite well wrapped. I'm going to use the grey thread so I can patch up my grey bow as I go. I might just use, so last time I used both threads that were hanging off, but I think I'm just going to use one this time because I think it'll be a bit easier for me. So first off, you want to get rid of one of these threads, and to do that, I would just sew it back in. Oh, actually, I'm just going to start off by wrapping it around this end a couple of times. Tidy that up. So once you've made a few hundred of these, you won't have to be tidying it up, but I quite like the fact that I've only made a few of these as well, so I get to show you all the little hacks for how to make it look tidier if it's getting away from you a bit. Okay, so I've wrapped that round a few times, and I'm just going to do like I did with the blue one. I'm just going to sew this grey thread that I don't want to use up inside the wrapping. And then just going to cut it off. Okay. Oh, hey Cheryl, nice to see you. Oh, I love it when my friends drop by, just to hear me waffle on for a bit. Right, so this grey is on the wrong side, so I'm just going to sew back through the bow. And we're going to sew it together in exactly the same way. So let me just do another close-up for you, in case you were wondering. So we're just going to pick up a few threads from the green, about 4 millimeters, and then a few threads from the grey. Pull it nice and tight. This is the back of mine. Remember what I said about working? You work on the back, the front looks great. That's the plan. all goes according to plan, which, you know, what is it that they say? But basically, all the sayings are that plans don't work out. But, you know, you've got to have a plan. Right. So I'm just going to keep sewing these together. And in 5 minutes, we're going to start work on the clouds. So I better sew this one a bit quicker. Just run through it a bit. Halfway, keep going. The problem with doing bigger stitches like I'm doing now to get it done, and you can totally do bigger stitches, but the only problem with doing them is it's a little bit harder to hide them. Although saying that, these ones are pretty well hidden, so just do what seems right to you. If you do little stitches and they're showing, try doing big stitches. See what happens. See what happens. Or like I said, you can just cheat and sew them together at the ends if you don't want to mess around with all this sewing lark. I just like the way they look when they're sewed together all the way along. So we've got the same problem here. The grey's a little bit longer than the green. I'm just going to push that grey wool up. Doesn't have to go up very much. Just keep going. Oh, thanks so much for joining me this evening, guys. It does mean the world to me to have you all watching. Really is so much more fun. If I was just here on my own, if you all just watched it recorded or didn't even watch it at all, that would be really depressing. So you guys are so important, and you keep me inspired to come up with new workshop ideas. So please keep watching. Keep watching and I'll keep chatting rubbish. Right, so I've got to my end. I'm just going to put a stitch through the grey to help secure it. My wire is poking out a bit at the end of the grey, so I'm just going to rewrap that end so the wire is totally hidden again. And I'm going to pop a stitch in as well. Sew it through the grey one and through the green one next to it. Then I'm going to hide the end of the grey one. I'm going to come back through the green one into the grey one. Make that nice and secure. Could go through that pale blue one as well, actually. You could go through all the bows of your rainbow. That's up to you. I'll leave that in your capable hands. I've still got a bit of that wire showing, so I'm just going to try really hard to cover that up. Just by looping the grey around a few more times. There we go, I think I've got it now. And now I'm just going to sew that grey back up inside itself and give it a trim. And then obviously do the same with these green ends. Hide them away. I think I'm saving time, but I'm just going to be threading my needle forever. Right, so I'm just going to sew the green up through this one. And then thread the green, sew the green up through the stitching. I'd bring them out in separate places if you've got double ends like I have. They both come out in the same place, you might see it. and then just snip them off. Then you want to fray the ends of your rope. That's not too long a job. A hairbrush or a comb can be quite useful for fraying the ends of... Yeah, the sewing bit does take longer than you hope. Try just sewing the ends together. See what it looks like. You might think that looks absolutely fine. So you fray your ends with a hairbrush or something, and then I would just add on a little bit. So you see I've just sewn on a bit of wool to the top to hang it from on that one. So that's really simple. You just stick a bit of wool through the top, and that is how you make your rainbow. And I'm going to move on to the clouds. So I'm going to put my scraps of wool out of the way, make myself a nice clear working space. So I'm using, for my clouds, I'm going to use a thinner rope. It's about half the thickness, so I was using about 10mm rope for the rainbow. This is more like a 5-6mm rope. And I'm afraid there's more wrapping involved, so if you are over the wrapping, you might not want to make clouds right now. And I'm just going to make a small cloud to show you how it's done, and then you can obviously run with that and get more creative. I don't think the wrapping is definitely not the time-consuming bit of the project though, so it's the sewing, and the cloud sewing, you'll be pleased to hear, is a bit quicker. I'm just looking for some extra white so I can double wrap it. Here we go, should have got this out earlier, but I didn't, oh well. Okay, so for this, we're just going to wrap, we're going to wrap 2 bits. One is going to be longer, so one's going to curl around like this, and then it's going to go around, and it's going to curl around like that. So you can lay it out, work out how big roughly you want that to be, and then cut it. I'd cut yourself a little bit extra. I'm superstitious like that. Then you want to get a bit of wire. That's the same length as your rope. And this time, you don't want it to be hardly any shorter than the rope, because it will just annoy you. Although saying that, you do want to be a bit shorter than the rope. I'll show you why in just a second. Okay, so these ends of the rope, these little ends, you just want to fray them up a bit. Just a little bit, about 1 centimetre of fraying on each end of rope. How long have we got? We've got 12 minutes. It's going to be super quick cloud demo. I will possibly not get it done. We'll see. So with this one, this is another way you can tie the end off. So I'm not even going to tie a knot. I'm just going to put the rope down, the string down, hold it along the rope, and I'm just going to start wrapping. I'm actually wrapping the wrong way here. Then I'm wrapping back down over it, and that'll hold your wool in place because you've just got some nice tough wrapping going on over the top. Right, so wrap, 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 wrap. And I'm being super traditional. My clouds are white, but I recommend purple clouds, I recommend grey clouds, I recommend green clouds. Honestly, go to town with your clouds. You don't have to be boring like I am. You can also, there's loads of different ways of making clouds. You can make pom-pom clouds, stuff like that. It can look really nice, but I wanted to do something a bit different with you. Didn't want to just make pom-poms because that is really a very boring video of me just wrapping wool, which is what I'm mostly doing on this video as well. But pom-poms are cool. I think if you head over to the studio name page, I'm pretty sure one of the videos on there on our YouTube channel is pom-pom making, so you can always check that out if you want to get stuck in with the pom-poms. but that's not what we're doing tonight. We are wrapping a bit of rope and a bit of wire, and I'm not doubling over this rope, but it is quite, it's thickish, so. Okay, nearly there. Over halfway anyway. Keep wrapping. You're all very quiet. I hope that means you're industriously sewing away. That's what I like to hear. The quiet sounds of people crafting. Here we go, getting to the end. So make sure you've joined the Get Creative group. Share any photos of anything you've made recently. If it's in these workshops, great. If it's something else you've made, I'd love to see that. Yeah, and it's a great way for me to stay in touch with you, tell you about anything we're giving away to promote these workshops, or tell you about any special exciting workshops I've got coming up, like my Halloween ones, which, you know, I haven't started advertising yet. You guys are the first to hear of them, but they're going to be great. Well, they're going to be good. Halloweeny. And I'm thinking there's not going to be so many Halloween parties this year, so we're going to get a bit more traditional with Halloween, get a bit more homemade Halloween. Okay, so getting to the end now. Nearly there. Just wrap the last couple of centimetres. There we go. And I'm just going to keep one bit of wool nice and long for sewing it together, and the other one I am going to cut a bit shorter. I'm just going to loop it round once, the shorter bit, and then I'm just going to tie those two ends together and hope they hold. They're going to be, one of them's going to be sewn in a minute, and then I can sew the other one in, so it definitely won't be visible. Okay, so starting at this end that you've got your two ends at, you're going to take your pinch your little tassel and twist it around to make a little spiral. So I'll just show you that. See, like a little coil. Hopefully if that wire is doing its job, that coil will hold. I'm just going to put the wool on my needle. And I'm just going to, first off I'm going to sew in one direction on my coil. And then I'm going to sew back down and try not to stab myself in the finger, because that's never a good look, swearing on camera. Ugh, where are those pliers when I need them? So you can of course stitch this the same way you stitch your rainbow, but I really don't think it's necessary because it's such smaller sort of coils. I think you can just sew through it like this. Looks fine, holds it together nicely, all good. And I'm actually going to go around this once more. So I'm just going to loop my wiry wool combo up and round and pop my needle through the side. Oh, I suppose you guys would probably like a close-up. Here we go. You see I've got my coil that I'm sewing together here. And I'm just going to put a couple more stitches all the way through it. Hold that nice and firm. 5 minutes left. Will she get her cloud finished? Who knows? Let's find out. I'll be happy with half finished. You guys get the idea. And then I can always pop a photo on the group later of my finished cloud. I always say I'm going to do that and then I get distracted by my toddler and don't end up finishing it, which is probably a dirty little secret I shouldn't have told you. Such a hypocrite. Oh well. I do try. I mean, I love finishing these projects. I love doing this stuff with you. It's so nice. It's so nice to be creative with you guys. You can also use a hard surface if the needle is sticking a bit to help push your needle through. Oh, I've bent all my spiral there. There we go. Okay, so what happens next? A minute. My phone's just telling me the battery's low. I hope that hasn't affected the video. Just turn that notification off. So I like odd numbers in my craft project, so I'm going to go for 3 bumps in my cloud, but as you can see, this cloud only currently is going to have 2 spirals because it's going to have a little spiral here, this big spiral here, and so I'm going to make another spiral to sit in the middle. I think this might be one that I do without you. But you see, I'm going to curl up another bit of rope, sit it in there. I think that's all right. I don't think you have to be I don't think the rope has to be cloudy. I think it's all right because you don't have to. So I've left this frayed end on, but you could just, I mean, I think it actually looks better on that side. I might just cut my frayed end off and see what you think. I think it looks better without the frayed end, so don't worry if your rope's not cloudy. You just wrap it in that white wool until you can't see it at all and you'll be all good. Right, so I was just deciding on my final cloud piece. So it's going to be another spiral that sits in this one. It's going to be a bigger one. So just make sure I've got enough there. I don't think I'm going to get this done in the next 2 minutes, so I am going to have to send you a photo of it later. So on the group Get Creative, so if you haven't joined yet, join the group Get Creative. I think you probably all have. I'm seeing a lot of regular names that I see on the group, and it's really lovely. It's lovely that we're creating this creative community. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed doing the rainbow making. I did tell you that it would be longer than an hour at the beginning of this, so I hope you don't mind doing a bit more work. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will hopefully see you on Saturday to do some painting and pen stuff. That one's great. It should only take an hour. I mean, you can do it for as long as you want. You can do it all week if you want, but you know, it's not like a project like this where you've got to keep going till it's finished. That's a much more therapeutic angle and a creative approach. It's going to be great. Then also next week we've got the batiking with PVA, which, like I said, it's like a 2-step thing. You've got to do it and then leave it for 24 hours to dry and then add the paint on. So you can either paint, not paint, PVA before the session or PVA at the session and paint later. So that's great. Thank you again so much for joining me this Tuesday evening. It hasn't actually rained the whole session. I should have done it in the garden again, but I was worried I might get absolutely soaked. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your lovely comments, guys. It's such a pleasure doing these workshops for you. And yeah, I'll see you Saturday or see you next week. Bye.